Mr. Overton? Mr. Moran?
Yeah, hi there. I'm Mark Brance's associate, one of the attorneys representing the applicant.
Thank you.
That's correct. For the record, Mark Brantz, Mr. Moran is with me. He's just joined our firm and is observing various commission meetings around the state, and this is one I knew he would learn a lot from.
Thank you very much. Mr. Overton, can you identify yourself, please?
Hello, everyone. Darren Overton from SLR Consulting, representing the applicant, also with Attorney Brantz.
Okay, thank you very much. First order of business would be appointment of alternates.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, would you like me to read the read-in for the public meetings?
Yes, you can do that, Katrina. I have it here, but go right ahead.
This is a web-based call, so we are operating under the following procedures. This session is being audio recorded. Please be advised that today we are also recording the video of the proceedings. We will not use the chat feature in this meeting. To ensure sound quality, the default rule for this meeting is that everyone will remain on mute. Commissioners and staff will generally remain on mute except when speaking or voting. This member is open to the public, but it is not a public meeting. Therefore, excuse me, this is not a public hearing. Therefore, no members of the public may speak unless specifically invited to do so. If a member of the public creates an audio or video disruption, they may be manually ejected from the meeting upon recommendation of staff or the chair. We appreciate your attendance at this meeting. Should you have any questions about this process, you may call our staff at 860-444-5813 after the meeting has ended.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we have a couple of new.
Okay, thank you, Maureen. I'd like Mr. Raymond. Ms. Raymond, would you identify yourself, please? Megan Raymond.
Hi, good evening. My name is Megan Raymond. I'm a wetland scientist with SLR Consulting, representing the Hendels project. Yep, thank you.
Brandon Handerfield.
Hi, sorry about that. Civil engineer representing the applicant for Willits Avenue, item 4, new applications.
Thank you, sir. I think that's everybody. Thank you very much. Appointment of alternates. I don't see Ivy here. I'd ask Julie if you would sit for Ms. Patterson.
Okay.
We have one vacant. Item number 2, approval of the 26 August meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Thank
Wade
you.
Thomas.
Thank you.
Second that.
Thank you. Motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Corrections, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'm abstaining.
Thank you, Mr. Medelis. Please let the record show that all are in favor with one exception, with one abstention. Item number 3, application review, C21-10, 39 Shore Road, in-ground pool. Peter and Kathleen Bergeron, owner and applicant, received on September 9, 2021.
Mr. Bergeron, do you want to address the commission with your proposed location of the pool? Is he there?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, give him a minute. There you go.
There you
Hello,
go.
Peter.
All right, thank you. I'm here with my wife Kathleen as well. The proposed northwest corner of the proposed pool is in or abuts the buffer zone of the wetlands area. We are requesting that the pool be allowed to be dug and installed, the grading of which will be in compliance with provisions agreed to. The other request that we're making is that there are a number of trees that were here when we moved in beginning of December of 2020. The number of them are very, very close to the house and present, I guess, an imminent danger of falling onto the house should there be another hurricane or windstorm, et cetera. And we're requesting that we be allowed to take those down as well.
Thank you, Mr. Bergeron. Are there any comments or questions by the commission?
Mr. Chair, this is Dave Lurch. I have a couple questions. Thank you.
Hello?
Mr. Bergeron, hello, Dave Lurch here. This
Hi,
is
Dave.
nice to see you. Right. So the trees that you propose to cut down are they in the current buffer zone, or how? I was looking at the drawings here. I missed the last discussion, but I was still looking at where is the current non-encroachment area, as we refer to it, and how close are those to that non-encroachment area?
I can help with that, Commissioner.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Bergeron. So the wetland is in the open space to the west of the property. Part of the subdivision, Commissioner Lurch instituted a 50-foot wetland non-encroachment area adjacent to that. So the wetland itself is here 20 feet, here 30 feet off the property line. The trees in question, if I may take you through the photos.
Sure, thanks.
Okay, so that group of trees right there, hold with me, are right here within 15 feet of the house.
Okay.
There are a couple other trees up in the non-encroachment area that were left from construction in this corner. I think, hold with me. There they are. One, that's the fence line is the property line here. There's one here. Hold with me. And these kind of extend into it, this fella here. That are here and here. So those are more for the pool installation because the roots might get hit.
Sure.
That other group of trees is right here off the northwest corner of the house, northwest corner of the house.
Thank you, Maureen. That's correct.
Okay. So so we have a couple of trees that we want to take down. I can understand that, you know, branches are going to fall. There's going to be just some disruption of the ground. Who knows how that's going to change things. Is one of the things that we like to address is if we take a look at this non-encroachment area, is it going to stay at 50 feet, or should we establish a different non-encroachment area, non-encroachment, you know, from the wetlands markers at some other location? And I would just kind of throw that out to the board, to the commission to discuss. And you know, are we comfortable with that or not?
Wade here. I'm comfortable with the proposal here. I mean, the trees are, you know, the grass area within the grass area that's being maintained as a lawn, which is in the wetland buffer. So, I mean, as long as they don't encroach any further, I don't really have an issue with it.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Wade, on that. And I don't see that those couple of trees as being a big issue. But
Julie here. I believe those are also within what is already fenced as part of their backyard with a chain link fence along that area.
Correct.
So then, what have we talked about? What would be the maximum, or where where we would stop as far as an area disturbance in the future would go? How far we can mow the lawn, you know, after the pool goes in, that sort of thing. You know,
I would think if the applicant is, you know, amenable to leaving the mowed area as is. I
Okay.
mean, that's reasonable. Not expand it, which I don't think they can with the fence.
No,
No,
that's correct.
I can't.
I mean, it looks like you got some ground cover right by the fence and that. So, I mean, if you're willing to maintain what you have there and not encroach any further, I'm fine with it.
Yeah,
Myself.
we intend to continue mowing and keeping that area as it is today, so no disturbances in that area.
okay, so the chain link fence is the extent of your property. You can't go past that anyway, right?
On this side, on the western side.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Back there, yeah. On the northern side, there was a chain link fence is actually goes quite a distance. Our property goes quite a distance past the chain link fence. Yep.
Oh, okay. Is there any intention to move that chain link fence? Or you're going to keep it there?
It's
Not-
staying.
Not at the present time, no.
It's staying.
All righty. So we're effectively establishing the chain link fence as the non-encroachment area or the extent of the area disturbance.
Correct.
All right, great. Thanks.
Any other questions from the commission? Maureen, with the write-up that you've done, and hearing no objection from the commission, would it be appropriate to request a motion to issue the permit based on the comments?
Mr. Chair, if you're looking for a motion, Dave Lurch here, I'd happily make a motion that we take into account the comments provided by staff for application 21-10, 39 Shore Road, and go to draft.
I second that motion.
Motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah, staff here, let me just bring up my comments for the people here. I have to keep rolling, sorry. Just click there. Oh. Katrina's teaching me how to navigate, sorry. So, I know. So I guess this is a pending pool permit. It's in building and zoning right now.
Mhm.
I know the commission likes the ability to review a draft first, but staff has already put together some considerations. The commission may determine the activity will not cause short or long-term impacts to the adjacent forested wetland, which is actually 30 feet off the property. And perhaps just go to approval with the recommended conditions below. That the approved limit of disturbance adjacent to wetlands should be marked and verified by your agent prior to start of construction. That excavated soil materials should be removed from the site. I mean, they're going to grade around the pool, but we're not going to fill in a non-encroachment area. And at all times, you know, we'll put erosion and sediment controls in place. I believe the contractor is Giuliani Pools. We've worked with them before, similarly on 5 Spinnaker. With the permit the commission issued. So it would just be staff's recommendation to help the Bergerons get through their building permit and zoning permit application. If you're comfortable with these as conditions, to actually consider going to approval with the above considerations and special conditions. You don't have to. I can write it up for you and then you can review it at next meeting. But we have a 3-week lapse. We have a 3-week lapse till our next meeting.
Chair would be amenable to entertaining a friendly amendment to issue the permit or issue approval based on staff's comment.
So made, Wade Thomas.
Thank you, Wade. Is there a second?
Second, Dave Lurch.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
I have one question, if
Yes,
possible.
sir.
For the trees, I have put off a contractor a couple times and had him rescheduled, I think, for Sunday, October 3rd. Is that permissible to go ahead or do I have to wait again?
With the commission approving tonight with these conditions, I believe that you are authorized to go ahead unless I'm misspeaking. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
I would agree with that.
I would agree.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I guess you
Just
can.
I wanted to make sure that we're doing the right thing, that's all.
We appreciate that question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
good night,
Good luck.
Mr. and Mrs. Bergeron.
Thank you very much, Maury. Dick, thank you.
You're welcome, Pete.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I'm now getting to the next, back to the agenda. All right.
Leave.
Item number 4 on the agenda. New applications, C21-11, 969 Hartford Turnpike, multifamily residential development, Hendel's Route 85 Land LLC, owner and applicant, SLR Consulting agent. Questions, comments?
Well, I believe there's a number of people here representing Mr. Handel for this. So is someone prepared to make a presentation or do you want staff to navigate? Or we'll be happy to share screen. Who's running this?
We can hear from the applicant. We can hear from them now.
Darren, you want to take the helm?
Sure. Thanks, Maureen. Hello, everyone. Again, Darren Overton from SLR Consulting. I've been the civil engineer and project manager for the site development plans for the project. With me here tonight are Mark Brantz, who's been the attorney for the project. I believe listening on the phone is the owner, John Hendel. And I also have Megan Raymond here from SLR, who's our wetland biologist. Mark, would you like to start off with any initial comments on this? And if possible, Maureen,
I would just say, I know this. I know that what's happening tonight is the commission is just receiving the application. I understand you just want a short review of it and decide that. I think the first order of business for this commission will be to decide if you consider this a significant activity. And if not, whether you want to have a public hearing in the public interest, which you're allowed to do. I've asked Darren to review why this is not a significant activity, but again, we have no objection to a public hearing if the commission wants it for other reasons. But really, I think that's the only thing at this stage. Until you decide whether you want a public hearing, we should not get into the details of the application. I want to apologize for my voice. I have surgery on it in a month, but for now it's just a little hoarse. Thank you. And I could turn over to Darren to review basically what the proposal is. And if need be, I can share my screen with the text of the definition of
So Maureen, if I could share my screen, I have some presentation graphics. I'd like to just kind of give an overview of the project site and the project as we've designed it, and then kind of turn it over to Megan, who has been on the site and, flagged the wetlands and written the soil report for the project. I'd like to turn it over to her for some of the details regarding the wetlands on site and the design.
I think at this stage, this is just helpful to orient the commission to where the project is, where it is in proximity to the wetlands. And certainly, I concur with Attorney Brandt that once the commission determines whether or not this is a significant activity, we go to hearing, and we'll get into the gritty details. But right now, this is just an overview. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to share my screen, Maureen. So what I have up in front of you is an aerial map of the site with the wetland boundary, or not the wetland boundary, but the actual property boundary in yellow. The wetland boundary is in green, and then the 100-foot upland review area as part of your regulations is highlighted in purple. So we have on site a fairly substantial wetland area that's been flagged on the property. This is north is up and to the left on this map with the north arrow here. So this is in the southern portion of the property. And then there's actually a off-site watercourse that runs along the northern property line just off the property. But we recognize that the 100-foot upland review area does extend onto the site, as you can see from the purple line here. So for the most part, there isn't much surrounding the site. Most of the eastern border and part of the southern border is a power line corridor. To the west is Hartford Turnpike and an intersection with Cross Road and some industrial development along the west side of Hartford Turnpike. To the north is an existing gas station and convenience store that was previously, I believe, part of the property or carved out of the property and developed, with this being the remainder portion. And then we have the water course and kind of undeveloped property here, another utility line running in another developed property here, but for the most part, undeveloped property to the north. We have the existing contours shown on the map as well to represent the topography. So we have the highest point of the site is up here along the power line corridor in the northeast corner. So just for reference, that's an elevation of about 208. And the lowest point, as you can imagine, is down in part of the wetland corridor, down here along the southern boundary. There's a cross culvert here that runs under Hartford Turnpike, and the lowest elevation on site is about 99, where the water courses that run through this wetland drain to that cross culvert. There's two ridges on site starting along the eastern boundary. You see there's a ridge here that drops down to a central valley that slopes in an easterly direction. And for the most part, the site in general slopes in a southerly direction. There's a second ridge here. So the high point drains into the middle, the high point here drains in the middle, and then drains southerly down towards that wetland corridor over here. We have the steepest part of the site, and many of you have probably driven by here, and you can see the slope coming up from Hartford Turnpike. The steepest part of the site drops down to Hartford Turnpike. The site is mostly wooded. There's some clearing along Hartford Turnpike as part of this cut, as part of the development of the roadway. But for the most part, the wetlands themselves are wooded, and the upland area is also wooded on site. So I'm just going to jump over quickly to the proposed plan. So this is the development that's proposed. It's a multifamily development. There's 284 dwelling units that are proposed in 7 residential buildings. The buildings kind of surround a central parking and circulation area with one building in the middle. There's also a clubhouse that's proposed as an amenity with a pool for the future residents. The narrower buildings here are some covered parking spaces, which will actually be garage spaces for the units. We have an access drive coming up off of Hartford Turnpike. The best and really only place to access this property is from the intersection with Cross Road, where there's a signalized intersection that if this project goes forward, that signal will be modified to accommodate the new entrance drive. The entrance drive comes up what you saw on the other graphic. I don't have the contours on here, but what's a steep slope. So it kind of winds its way up that steeper slope at about a 7 or 8% grade up to the developable area here through that kind of that central valley. The parking proposed for the project, we're required to have 490 spaces. We have just over that at 500. They're distributed throughout the circulation of the access roads. This roadway itself is about 750 feet, rising up off of Hartford Road to the proposed development pad. And that's designed as a boulevard, so it has a kind of a central green corridor going through it. We have proposed landscaping as part of this. You can see the disturbed area here in the lighter green. We don't show all the landscaping on this rendering, but there's landscaping associated with trees along the roadway. We have landscaping of the stormwater management basins, and we also have various trees and shrubs distributed around the site and foundation plantings around each of the buildings. The property will be served by public water and sewer. And then probably one of the more important things that you want to hear about is the stormwater management. So we have several different stormwater management areas on the site, and it starts with some of these smaller green areas adjacent to the buildings. So these are kind of rain gardens that will collect roof runoff from the buildings and allow for storage. They're sized for the first flush of runoff or the first inch of runoff from the roofs, to allow for some natural infiltration. If they overflow into a collection system. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of those proposed to treat runoff from the roofs, which is generally considered clean, but still requires some treatment as part of the deep stormwater quality manual. Then we have 3 stormwater basins that are designed for peak flow attenuation. The first is here, just south of the clubhouse. There's a second one here in the bend in the road. And then there's a third one here before the discharge that comes down into a valley here that then drains into the wetland and the cross culvert under Hartford Road. There's also another water quality basin here that treats some of the runoff off of Hartford Road, which really isn't treated now. And also a portion of this access drive, which we couldn't capture in these other stormwater management basins. That'll drain down here into a grass swale, run into this water quality basin, and then there's a level spreader type overflow. So we've been working on the design of this for, I think it's about 3+ years now. We've had several meetings with town staff, including Marine, which has guided us in the stormwater management design. We've carefully followed the deep stormwater manual in order to provide selection of the different types of stormwater basins that we've designed here. 2 of these basins are designed as micropool extended detention basins, and one of them is a pocket pond. And it's really tailored towards the receiving wetlands here in the downstream Jordan Brook corridor, which you can kind of see along the dark line here, which is represented in the aerial. And also understanding the watersheds on site that drain to these basins. So that's kind of a quick overview of the design of this. I'd like to turn it over to Megan now to just talk a little bit about what she found in her field work on site in delineating the wetlands as far as the wetland functions and values, and also her analysis of the impacts that we have here. So quickly, we do have some upland review area impacts associated with the water course up here. It's mainly grading behind the buildings and part of this water quality basin or rain garden basin that treats the runoff from these 2 roofs. And then there's also some upland review area impact you can see here on the south side, which is associated a little bit of grading for the road and then grading for the stormwater basins that are proposed here. So if Megan, you'd like me to go back to existing conditions or whichever plan you'd like me to bring up,
Sure.
I'll turn it over to you now.
Great. Thanks a lot, Darren. Existing conditions would be perfect. Good evening. Hope everyone's doing well. My name's Megan Raymond. I'm a wetland scientist, professional wetland scientist with SLR, as well as a registered soil scientist and certified floodplain manager. And as Darren described, SLR delineated the wetlands on this site. That occurred back in March, actually, of 2017, when we began site design and analysis for this project. These wetland areas, the on-site wetland areas, are comprised of palustrine, forested, slope wetlands. They're concentrated in the southern portion of the property and outlined in green. They occupy about 5.5 acres of the 35-acre parcel. These areas do exhibit some intermittent water courses within them, but they're generally, there's diffuse drainage and sort of broad drainage corridors that do lead to a catch basin underneath cross underneath the Hartford Turnpike there, and then drain on to Jordan Brook. The site sits in the Jordan Brook watershed, as we've described. It's about a third of the way down of the 7.6 square mile watershed. The topography on the site is there's some bedrock control, but as well as some till modified features. So the soils that support these wetland systems are poorly drained soils derived from glacial till. We see a lot of structure within the wetland, both within the vegetative composition of the forest and shrub strata and a nice ground cover, but as well the geology within the wetland. We have a lot of cobbles and boulders exposed within the wetland corridor, and they're definitely high quality systems that we've considered pretty seriously in laying out the design. As Darren described, the proposed project does allow for complete avoidance of any direct wetland activity. We've really refined our upland review area activities. Yeah, that's perfect to go to the proposed conditions plan. Thank you. We've really refined our work in the upland review to be essentially devoid of any structure. It's really some grading and installation for our stormwater management features, which are the bulk of the effort to protect water quality draining through the wetlands and offsite to the property. The upland review area occupies about 6 acres of land area on the site, and we're working with the grading in approximately 1 acre of that upland review, of that 6 acre total upland review. And you can see when we lay out this project that we're able to preserve a great deal of open space around the eastern perimeter. It's about 13.6 acres, or 39% of the site is going to remain in its forested condition as it presently exists. So again, we are able to maintain this high quality wetland corridor by avoiding direct wetland impact, by looking at long-term measures such as stormwater management, by concentrating our development envelope in a topographically suitable area that avoids or that takes advantage of some of the existing topography between the two ridges. We also have a comprehensive sedimentation and erosion control plan to manage short-term impacts during construction. And for all of those reasons, looking at the project holistically, we don't look at this as a significant activity as it relates to wetlands, given the measures to avoid direct wetland disturbance and then manage indirect wetland disturbance in the long term and the short term. We're happy to answer any questions. I'm not sure if Attorney Brantz has any summary comments, but at this point, I think we'd like to turn it back to you for some feedback. And thanks again for your time this evening. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I ask a couple of questions if I could, please? Wade Thomas.
Go
Of
ahead,
course.
Lou.
Have you done any borings or probes on the entry drive in the basin areas where their deep cuts are proposed?
We have done a series of test pits through the site. And actually, I forgot to mention, there's actually an underground stormwater management area that's right here. We found in the upper part of that valley were well, I won't say highly permeable, but the highest permeability soils we found on the site. So this underground storage is actually designed for infiltration as well. We did show areas around the ridge here, and we do expect excavation for building foundations and some of these basins, maybe in rock. The test pits show that, well, maybe they will be. There's going to be some rock excavation here associated with the development of this project, mainly associated with this, I'll call it the westerly ridge here and these stormwater management basins.
All right, so you've done test pits and done permeability testing then?
Yes, it was geared
Okay.
towards looking at the stormwater management. So we did pits in the basins, and we also did some in our largest cuts to understand whether we'd have any rock excavation or not.
Now, in the deeper basins, the main ones on the access drive coming in, I can't believe the test pits went all the way down to where the proposed bottom of the basin. Do you anticipate at some point in time, or have you already done borings to confirm where the bedrock is?
So not all of the test pits went to the full depth of the excavation, but I think we have enough of an understanding of the depth of soil and the depth to rock to make enough judgments for the design. I expect before this goes to construction that the structural engineer and design of the buildings will want some additional borings. And we may do some additional site borings as part of that, just to confirm, some of the quality of the rock and the ability to reuse some of that rock on site for road base and other things. Structural
All right.
fill possibly.
And the last question, the roofing material, is it all gonna be fiberglass shingles or regular asphalt shingles? There's no metal proposed for roofs?
I don't believe there are metal roofs proposed now.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission, comments?
It's a tough site. At least visually, it looks tough when you sit there at the intersection of 85 crossroads.
But for the record, Mark Brantz, we also think that the units on that ridge are going to be really spectacularly beautiful. They're going to have a great view, and it's a good way to sort of ease into the power line that completely surrounds the site. We're giving good buffer to the power line, so we're using that knob, I guess you'd say, for the development, while keeping all the slopes on the sides.
So
That's a good concept.
I'd just like to add,
Thank
the
you.
architecture does take into consideration the grades on the site. These buildings here are 2-3 splits, where it's a 3-story on the lower part, a 2-story up here as we're stepping up the grade. And I believe we have a similar situation here where we step down the grade, that this is a 2-3 split building. So the architecture also considers the grades on site.
It appears to be very well thought out. These cursory review. Thank you.
This is Dave Lurch. I have a question, if I may. So from the beginning of the project through completion, is it anticipated that all of the runoff water will be directed toward that wetland at 5 acre or so wetland area off to the east? And, especially given what happened here within the last couple of weeks with tremendous flooding due to some of the highest record rainfalls, can we hold that kind of water in that wetland there until everything is completed?
So I'm just jumping back. It's a good question. Jumping back to the existing aerial. This ridge here kind of defines what drains to the wetland here to the south, and what kind of drains directly to Hartford Turnpike. So this valley collects from this ridge to this ridge, and the majority of the site drains right down through here, either through this valley or through the runoff over here on the east side. So we've tried as much as possible to maintain those existing watersheds and not shift water from one watershed to another. And then going back to the stormwater basins, we've looked at peak flow attenuation through here, which goes up to, we typically analyze a range of storms from the 2-year to the 100-year storm. And we've designed these to be able to retain flows for the change in land use up to the 100-year storm, so that we don't have any peak increases in runoff associated with the project. So the basins are sized accordingly for that.
Thank you very much.
You'll be needing to get the DEP construction stormwater permit as part of this, given the area of disturbance, correct?
Yes, we are over the 5 acres of disturbance, and a deep construction stormwater general permit will be required.
All right, thank you.
Is there water flowing into the Jordan Brook? I see you're very close to there.
I'm happy to answer that. So the site does exist within the watershed to Jordan Brook. As you can see on this figure, we have our wetland that occupies the southern portion of the site. And within this, like we don't have, it's not a classic stream corridor flowing through this property that then is culverted underneath Hartford Turnpike and directly, confluencing with Jordan Brook. What we see is a diffuse pattern of surface flow throughout the body of the wetland, little rivulets and channels that flow at certain times of the year with high groundwater or perhaps direct precipitation, as we've seen over the last couple of months. And then there is a cross culvert that exists right in this location, exactly right where that cursor is, and it flows it outlets right in this little grassy strip between an access road and Hartford Turnpike to the east. And then there's a small channel that then runs to the west to confluence with Jordan Brook. There are times obviously where site drainage does feed into Jordan Brook, but it's not a persistent event. It's in these seasonally high groundwater conditions or as a result of direct precipitation. And then even so, it's still, a good few hundred feet from there and flowing through another, a secondary tributary to confluence with the brook proper.
I'm concerned about the north side of the property where the brook is.
Right. So then there's that, but actually all of our drainage, we're actually in a different watershed. And you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Darren, but just looking at the site, and as we've described, we're all of our watershed and our property is trending south. We're not directing any drainage to that northern system.
So if I go back to existing, there's a tiny bit of slope here in the upland review area that kind of drains towards this water course. Under proposed conditions, some of this grassed area and back would continue to drain there. This rain garden here, which receives roost runoff and would pick up the yard area here, very little change in the watershed over here to the water course. So this is kind of a small water course that comes down the hillside from the power lines here. And then I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is a portion of Jordan Brook that extends this way. So this is just a small tributary up here and very little watershed from our site that actually drains into that.
Yeah, that's correct. Jordan, it is an unnamed tributary to Jordan Brook, and the confluence is about, it's right.
So you can see from here, here's the high points. Here's where the valley comes up. So from this point on, this all drains southerly. This is the saddle point right here, where a portion of this slope right here drains towards that water course. But from this high point, this would start to drain back into here or drain down to Hartford Turnpike. So very, very small watershed right in about here that drains offsite to the north.
Rich Muckle here. Will the depth of that valley be affected any by all the construction?
This valley here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're essentially utilizing this as the flatter part of the site. As you can see, this flatter part here with the contours is really the development area of the site. We actually had gone through a number of iterations where we considered an access road and buildings up here, but we ended up consolidating to a smaller footprint in here. And like I mentioned, the buildings that sit here along the slope, they're actually a split. So they step up that slope in order to kind of observing those contours there. We stepped them up and have modified the architecture to kind of step up that slope and minimize the amount of earthwork and grading. And I switch over, you can see those are located right here.
So is there going to be a fair amount of fill in that valley or no?
So that upper part of the valley, like I mentioned, whoops, what did I just do? Did I just stop screen sharing?
No, you still have it, Darren.
That was strange. My screen just flashed. I don't know what happened. Seem to have lost my other files.
We don't
Okay.
have that, so I can't share. Oh, there you go.
the upper part of the valley here, this is a flat area where we found there was some fairly sandy and permeable soils. So that's the area where that roadway comes up. And the roadway is elevated about 5 feet above that valley, so we can accommodate that underground detention area. So those galleys underground there, or the underground chambers, actually sit on the surface. We'll peel the topsoil off there and access those higher permeable soils, and that'll sit on there. So about 4 feet of fill or so through that valley to create that roadway.
All right, thank you.
Here's my other drawing.
Any other questions or comments from the commission?
Mr. Chairman, Dave Lurch here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was just curious if any of the property owners, I see there's a hotel there, and I didn't know that there was a drive with another building, kind of like right along that water course, if they've inquired about this project, or if they even know, I'm sure they know about it because they're at least one adjoining property owner is listed on the application, right? Maureen, you would know this. Has there been any inquiries from any of the adjoining property owners?
This is just being received tonight, Dave. So if there is, we will certainly notify the applicants.
Ah, okay. But I just,
Yeah.
when I heard that it's been in the plans for 3.5 years, I just kind of figured out.
Yeah, not our plans. Darren, will you just point out where the gas station is, and that's in the ownership of the existing applicant?
So developed formally by the current landowner and applicant, no longer in ownership of the
Correct,
applicant.
I'm sorry.
Yep, this is the gas station here. I think this is the hotel that was referred to, and I don't recall what this property is in here.
It's a building and it's for sale right now. I think
Okay.
it's a for sale sign. I guess the maid service used to be there.
Well, I guess I think an important point to note, and I know Mr. Hendel's listening as well. Thank you, but I think it would be beneficial. Certainly, staff can't wait to walk on the property and have a little better view of the proposal. I want the commissioner to know that we've had in-depth preliminary reviews with SLR and meetings with the applicant, Mr. Hendel, prior to their submission. So they're very well aware of the requirements of the Jordan Brook Watershed Management Plan and are trying to abide by them. I think once you get a little better view and feel of the ground under your feet, you probably have perhaps some more questions for them. I don't know, Attorney Brents, right now tonight, if the commission can respond to whether this is a significant impact activity. And certainly with it being received tonight, we need to wait 14 days to determine if there's public interest.
You certainly couldn't vote tonight.
You keep cutting out.
That for the record, Mark Brandt, that's absolutely correct. You're right. You have to allow the 14 days no matter what. As I indicated at the opening, whether the commission wants a public hearing, we certainly have no opposition to a public hearing. The only reason it makes a difference between a determination of significant activity versus a public hearing in the public interest is that for significant activity, it automatically triggers what's called a no feasible and prudent alternative. And since there are no direct impacts here, and by the way, this property does not, no development of this property abuts the motel. There's an intervening property, and as you can see, the development is up on the hill. It's up behind the gas station. It's not behind the motel. We certainly are happy to reach out to the public, but I think it can be as a hearing in the public interest. There really, as Meg has indicated, there are no direct activities. All the stormwater is being managed, so we don't think that any of the tests for a significant activity are being met here. And whether you want to reach that determination tonight is also totally up to you.
I would say based on what I'm seeing, I mean, I don't.
We lost you, Wade.
I mean, it looks like the stormwater management and everything of that nature is well. You still there? Can you hear me?
You're in and out. You're coming in and out.
All right, must be because I'm outside here. All right, it appears well thought out, and from what I'm seeing, if everything, functions as proposed, I don't see it as a significant activity, but I got to get into it a little more myself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As does staff. Mr. Chair?
That's fine, whatever time you need or whatever you want, site walk first.
Well, I think that certainly we need more time to make that determination. There's no question about that. Any other comments from commission? Questions? Thank you, folks, for the information, for your presentation, and we will be considering the project in the coming weeks.
We appreciate you taking the time to hear us out tonight, and happy to provide whatever additional information you may need. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, you guys.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Good night.
Thank you. Take care.
Pleasure.
Okay, give us a couple of seconds here, Mr. Chair, to rearrange our screen.
Okay, Maureen.
Back to the agenda. You good?
Yeah.
Okay, we're up to new application C2112, Mr. Chair.
Okay, item number, continuing with item number 4, C21-12, 384 and 394 Willits Avenue Extension. Site plan modification and new clubhouse. Waterford Woods LLC owner and applicant, Yantic River Consultants LLC agent. Questions, comments? Presentation by the applicant. Hanfield?
Good evening. Thanks for having me. My name is Brandon Hanfield with the Yantic River Consultants, a civil engineer licensed in the state of Connecticut. Here representing the applicant Waterford Woods LLC. And if you wouldn't mind, I'll share my screen so you can see some of the colored presentation plans I have.
We're all set, Brandon.
See if I can do that. Yep. Okay, so you should all see a colored aerial in front of you. So what I'm going to focus on here is just kind of backtrack. This application has been in front of you twice now. The first time back in early 2021 for Waterford Woods site development. The location is 384 and 394 Willits Avenue. Outlined in orange is the subject site. It's about 26.6 acres. To the left or north is Willits Avenue. Above you would be Atlantic Broadband, or to the east and Myrock Avenue. To the south is the railroad corridor. And to the northwest would be the intersection with Boston Post Road. This is the overlay of the property on the existing survey that was performed in late 2020. And it's on top of the 2019 aerial. And what you have in teal, you'll see the inland wetlands that was delineated by James Sipperley, certified soil scientist. He did his delineation in December of 2020. And his report was submitted as part of our original application to the commission that was approved on January 20, I don't have the date here, January 28th, 2021. So that's the existing site. I won't spend too much time on it. It is currently under construction on the north and east portions for the approved multi-family development. And before I get off of existing conditions, I just want to touch on, again, what we showed you back in December and January last application. this is the site overlaid in the 1965 aerial. And what I did is I highlighted a few things. One, the property boundary, again, in orange, the wetlands in teal, the upland review area, which is 100 feet, also in teal. And you can see it generally aligns with what was there in 1965 in terms of what's underneath in the aerial. Also shown this is in magenta is the surveyed trail from 2020, which aligns with that historical disturbance we discussed as part of our previous application. You can see the areas of disturbance, stockpiling, containers, material throughout the site to the north and east. So this is where our current development is landed. We did not focus much back here at our original application at the southwest corner of the site because we weren't proposing anything at the time. This is actually where we are proposing the clubhouse. So I'll briefly go through what we see back there. Again, the magenta trail crosses over or through the wetlands and kind of through this topographic saddle and comes up to a high point in the center where there's a turnaround. And faintly, you can see the historical, again, construction activities or mining or quarrying activities that were conducted back there. So you can see the material stockpiles, you can see the roads. This area here is a very large rock pile that has signs of quarrying with drill holes and feather wedge holes. Same right here, there's a large rock pile. The trees in this area are not very thick or dense. There's not much undergrowth. And again, so this area here was generally used for some sort of quarrying or material management. And when you get to the outer perimeter, that's where you start to get into the more mature vegetation that we see today on the outskirts here. But again, really the vegetation in the center is not all that mature or dense. Any questions on the existing site before I jump to the proposed? All right. So this is the last historical plan I'll show you. This is the approved development from 2021. So this is the layout that your commission saw in January and the Planning and Zoning Commission saw in February and March that was approved. You'll see it's the same development, 3 buildings with 98 apartment units located basically in the center of the site. Access off of Willets Avenue to the north, and a few things to identify in this plan that were added or requested by the commission. We do have these restore areas, which basically is cleaning up the historical piles of brick and wood. Those areas have been cleared already and will be restored shortly. And that is indicated by this yellow dipple all the way around. And then in dark black, which is a little harder to see, but we do have a 50-footer non-encroachment line or boundary that we added to the plan. So once those areas are restored, there will be a non-encroachment boundary. That boundary continued through this area here and out to the southeast. And what you'll see is we're proposing to extend the road through here. And I'll go to the proposed site modification. So again, we're looking to extend the approved driveway through this topographic saddle between the delineated wetlands. So we're not proposing to cross the wetlands. We're moving the driveway to the west so that it goes through the area that's in the uplands. We will be restoring that existing driveway crossing with conservation plantings. It is already slightly vegetated as it's not traveled very often anymore. When we cross over through that area, we'll be coming back onto this peninsula here with the driveway parking the proposed clubhouse, which is located kind of tucked into the corner here of this peninsula, and I'll get into that in the next sheet. And then we end out at a cul-de-sac in the center of the site, basically mimicking what's there today so that we can turn emergency vehicles around and actually people that visit the clubhouse as well. What I'll do is I'll jump. This is a detailed view or a higher scale resolution of the same plan. This would be sheet 2 in your plan set. So again, we're proposing to cross this saddle here, the wetlands to the east and to the west, restoring that area there. Parking along the clubhouse building itself. It's about 100 feet long with a number of different rooms. And the intent behind this design really was to frame the existing rocky mound that exists today from the historical quarrying. So that rocky mound is located right in this area here at the top of the page, and the patio frames that view of that rock pile, which is pretty significant, and all of the trees that are growing around it, as well as the wetlands and the trees that are growing on the other side. So it's a very nice area. It'll be a nice feature for that outdoor pool patio as well as the lounge. Also with this clubhouse, we're proposing a dog park that will be a formal dog park with fenced in areas and cleared areas. Just to the west of the patio in the building, there will be a dog wash station as well inside the building that'll kind of complement that area. As you wrap around the patio, we're proposing a natural dog park, which will be limited or selective clearing of just understory, leaving the trees. And the fence that goes through there will be more of a meandering green box wire style fence. So it won't be white PVC. It'll be more of a natural area where dogs can run and the owners can stand the outside and allow their dogs to get into a more shady area. And let's see, other things on this site layout. There is an outdoor gaming area here, which is at grade with the patio. And really, it's just a flat grassy area where people can play portable outdoor games. And one other feature we wanted to point out here as you come onto the site, we tried to preserve not only the rocky mounds, but the trees that go around those mounds. So you'll see here a cluster of large trees, mature trees around a rocky mound. We're intending to keep that as a vegetated island. And then as you make your way around, everywhere except for where we have our stormwater discharge, we're keeping at least 50 feet away from the wetlands with the existing natural vegetation. So it's 50 feet except for this area here, well over 50 feet and outside of the upper review area as you work your way around. As you get to this detention area, the outlet itself gets slightly closer than 50 feet, but this large swale here, this flat vegetated swale will be at least 50 feet away from the wetlands. And we are proposing that that be a non-encroachment boundary similar to what we had on the approved development. Last thing I'll point out on this sheet is the FEMA floodplain. We are in a FEMA zone A, which means that a detailed study has not been performed. This double dashed line here in light blue is the limit of zone A, and this is the limit of zone A through the cul-de-sac. That is a very inaccurate line, as zone A's often are, as they didn't do a detailed study. They usually, sorry about that, they usually traced old topographic or USGS topographic maps from the 70s and early 60s. We actually did a detailed hydraulic study in accordance with FEMA standards to come up with a base flood elevation, and in solid blue, that is the actual base flood limit that's based on our calculations. So you can see that this elevated area here, which is obviously not in the floodplain, is by calculation not in the floodplain, and the floodplain generally parallels the wetlands that go around it. And that will be addressed with planning and zoning and FEMA as we move forward. The grading and drainage plan we put together, it dovetails off of what was already approved. Again, we're extending the driveway through that saddle. It will be an elevated section as it comes through that saddle, but none of the fill will be with it directly in the inland wetlands. The limited clearing will be just outside of the tip of the inland wetland. And as we make our way through, we basically marry into existing grade with minimal cuts and fills. As you come on here, the low point on the site will be this area right here, just to the north of the clubhouse. We are proposing a treatment and detention basin that will take those two catch basins, as well as a swale that will divert any runoff from the grassy areas into this basin. We have full sediment forebay, which will retain 100% of the water quality volume, and we have full treatment through filter beds. Sorry, my mouse is a little tricky today. We have full treatment in a filter bed here before discharging towards the inland wetlands. The clubhouse area and the cul-de-sac will drain towards a long, flat, vegetated treatment swale, which will bring it to a detention basin at the very far southwest corner of the site. Again, we situated that where there's a little bulb of very good soil. So this area here carries the groundwater or the runoff over to here where it has a potential to infiltrate. And we discharge at the low point of our site here. So any runoff from the clubhouse, the patio, the cul-de-sac, as well as this recreation area here will be discharged into this detention basin. As I mentioned, we did do a number of soil tests around the site. So they're a little light. Actually, they don't show up on this plan, but you can see them here. Test pits all along that swale. Test pit here, test pit here. In general, these soils, as you wrap around the site, are very gravelly. Groundwater wasn't found within 8 feet of the surface. As you make your way towards the center of the site, again, we did encounter some very granular soils, but we did find ledge at about a depth of 5 to 6 feet. And that's why we situated our stormwater on the perimeter in those good soils rather than trying to incorporate anything in the center of the site. And the last plan I'll show you is our erosion and sedimentation control plan. It's again marries in with what was originally proposed. Silt fence rings the site. In areas where we get close to the wetlands, especially in this saddle here where we're crossing, we're gonna double up that silt fence with either wood chips or a hay bale berm. And the reason for that is what we're experiencing out there right now. I heard somebody mention the storms we've had in the last month in Southeast Connecticut. And all in all, our site has handled them very well, including the 8-inch rainfall. The water was diverted into our detention basins and held. We did have a few areas where the silt fence was overwhelmed by the water, but very little here. And the area was in this area here. So we were able to basically shore up that silt fence with a double layer, and it's worked very well since with some filtering. So we're going to carry that forward. We also have silt traps situated around the site where swales can carry or divert water into those silt traps before discharging. Same here, this swale here can discharge into a silt trap that's outside of the filter bed area. So all in all, a pretty comprehensive erosion control plan in accordance with the 2002 guidelines. That's the brief presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions or otherwise.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the commission?
Yeah, it was a very concise presentation. I mean, I got to look at it. You know, maybe take a look at the site, see how it fits in there, but looks reasonable.
Sure, I agree with you, Wade. I'd like to take a quick look at it, but very, very nice presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll stop here, Maureen. This is in for receipt tonight. The application is complete. We have, again, like this site as well as the other, this site's a little more accessible, but please, because it's an existing construction site, if you want to go visit it, please contact staff and we'll coordinate with the job super. So we're not getting in the way of anything. But with the signed application, we do have permission to enter.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much, folks. Everything seems to be in order at this point, and we'll begin our deliberations and consideration.
Thank you, Brandon, for the presentation.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
You
And
too,
Brandon-
thank you.
And Brandon, before I lose you, did we lose him? No. Brandon, can you, if possible, forward those PDFs to us? Because that's really handy. For review
absolutely.
purposes.
I will, I'll hit share right now. It'll be a link coming to you so you can share that link.
We're in a different room right now, but just get them to Katrina so we can get them in the file. That would be
All right.
wonderful. Thank
Very
you.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all we have for business tonight. Maureen, Katrina, no bills to pay?
No,
Okay, I guess we're up for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
You wait a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Thank you very much, folks.
Take care,
Good
everyone.
night, all.
Good night.
Take care.